You just took an ISO. Hold on.
Oh, so someone's directing this. Oh.
This is the one. This one.
I thought I was so no one should be able to.
Well, look. Why don't you look into them, and I'll let you know which one it is. Look into which one are you looking into?
He looks into
Well,
that one.
look, there's a red light on it now.
Pierre looks into that
All right,
one.
what's the wide shot?
The wide shot is this one right here. Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Oh, right
And
there.
then that's just
Okay.
like a wide shot, like a whole stadium.
All right, we got you now. All right,
I'm ready.
do the ISO of him because he needs one.
It's up there.
Oh, it's not. That's way too high.
I think-
Where's Ahmad's ISO? That's
Up
not
there.
an ISO.
That is right there.
Yeah.
No, that's not good. That's up
Well,
too
that's
high.
gonna-
Give
that's
him
gonna
this
be as
one.
good as it
That's
gets.
fine.
Give him
It's
this
gonna be
one
as
and
good as
just
it
a wide shot.
That's fine.
All right.
Leave it like that. Let's roll.
All right, here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this Vikings Now podcast. Your Vikings are now a 1-1 football team after a very disappointing home opener. They lose to the Atlanta Falcons 22-6. Jim Rich, along with Ahmad Hicks and Pierre Noujaim from the Fox 9 Sports Department. And we talked a lot about it on Vikings postgame tonight. Pierre, we've got your thoughts already, so let's start with Ahmad, who's jumping in here now. Just where does this team go from here? Because fans are really seeing some dark days ahead, perhaps, for the Vikings.
I would just say everybody take a deep breath. Like, this is the second game for J.J. McCarthy. They don't have Christian Darrisaw. They didn't have Justin Jefferson throughout all of training camp. They don't have Jordan Addison right now. Like, I think I've been the only one on record that said, like, this offense will struggle through weeks 1 through 8. I think that you need time for Darrisaw to come back. I first reported that he would miss the first 3 to 4 weeks of this season. You don't have Addison for 3 weeks. I just think, how hard is it to build – it's really hard, should I say, to build and to find chemistry offensively when you don't have all your guys out there. Now, that's no mistake for how they played today. Embarrassing football. I mean, like, they should be a little bit better than what they showcased today versus the Falcons. But I still think there's a long ways to go for this offense, and I don't think they're anywhere close to reaching their potential.
Right, and tonight you lose Ryan Kelly, you lose School on that offensive line, so you really have a lot of pieces trying to figure things out on the fly, and so I don't think we can really assess J.J. McCarthy at this point, Pierre. But you, unlike Ahmad, are more disturbed than he is at this point?
I don't know if I would say I'm more disturbed. I will say, though, that, you know.
I meant about the game.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm glad you cleared that up. Yeah, they played 8 quarters of football, and 7 of them have been terrible.
Yeah.
That's the reality. I know that you're not at full capacity in terms of the personnel, like Ahmad was just saying, in terms of health along your offensive line. Your number 2 wide receiver is gone. You know, T.J. Hockenson has been a ghost through the first 2 weeks. He's only been targeted, I believe, 7 times through 2 games. I thought his role in the offense was going to be a lot larger with Jordan Addison out of the game. They can't run the ball consistently, and it just makes me think more and more that, man, this team really misses Christian Darrisaw a lot at left tackle. But to me, especially with the coaching staff that they have, and I put this a little bit more on Kevin O'Connell than Brian Flores because the defense has done its part for the most part. I know they got run over tonight, but listen, they held
Kept him out of the end zone,
Yeah,
though.
exactly.
That was huge.
They were not out of this game because of the defense tonight. 7 out of 8 quarters of poor offensive football is something that makes me start to scratch my head a little bit. I'm not really on the train of, it's only 2 games. Yeah, I know that progress is going to eventually be made because I think this coaching staff is too good not to allow it to be made. But 7 quarters of bad football makes me start to think a little bit that there are more glaring issues with this offense. And if all it is just the growing pains of J.J. McCarthy, well, then I guess Vikings fans are going to have to suffer through it at the time being. And like Ahmad was saying, if it's bad for 8 weeks, you're at 4-4, you're probably still in the thick of things in terms of the playoffs looking ahead, and you got a lot of games to go. So I think if you're sitting there at 4-4, hypothetically, you're not, the sky's not falling.
Right.
But I need to see progress in a hurry because we're not seeing it right now so far with J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah, and I mean, we looked back at the Bears game, and McCarthy was named NFC Offensive Player of the Week, and everybody was like, whoa, look at this. Then we watched Detroit play Chicago, and they run up 52 on the board, And you're kind of thinking before this Viking game against Atlanta, well, wait a minute, how much stock do we really put in that Bears win if they give up 52 to the Lions and the Vikings eked out a 3-point victory? So it's really hard to get a feeling on just what this team is.
Yeah,
at
and
this point.
I don't think you'll be able to find out their true identity until you get several weeks into the season, or should I say a month and a couple of weeks. Like, there's still going to be some new things we find out next week when they take on the Cincinnati Bengals and a team that's without Joe Burrow. I'm sure we'll talk about that. But, yeah, I mean, you're going to find out something new about this team each and every week, and I think you won't find out your true identity until you get all your guys back. But that being said, something can happen every week in the National Football League, and it's pretty rare that you have your team completely healthy throughout the entire season. So it's kind of like that next man up mentality that J.J. McCarthy was talking about. But I just think that, here in Minnesota, after that first win, everyone was ready to dub this a Super Bowl caliber team.
Exactly.
And then after this week, they're like, the sky is falling. It's like, how Minnesota fans are just rush to conclusions.
Any fan base is like that.
It's like, just take your time. And I think here, a little bit more passionate. Every game matters so much to these fans, and as it should. But I think it's a long season. Let's just take our time a little bit.
All right. How do you approach McCarthy now after week 2? You're now Kevin O'Connell. You have to talk with him, work him through this. We saw the stat from Next Gen Stats that he was pressured 53.3% of the time. That's the highest Atlanta has ever generated since 2018. He had 0 time in that game against the Falcons. So how do you piece this kid back together? Because really, you mentioned how the offense had 1 good quarter out of 8. He's had 1 good quarter out of 8.
Yeah, and he missed a throw tonight to Jalen Naylor.
That would have changed the whole game, perhaps.
The pocket was cleaned in, too.
When I kind of chuckled at myself a little bit because I was like, well, there goes, that dispels the notion of he doesn't have a strong arm. He overthrew Jalen Naylor, for crying out loud.
And he's speedy.
Yeah, and he's speedy. And that's the thing, too, for me. It's like I don't care about arm strength as much as I care about accuracy. Accuracy is what matters. I think in this situation, especially if you're going to be down more offensive linemen, you're going to have to get the ball out of his hands fast. You're going to have to start drawing up plays in terms of trying to get the ball out of his hands quickly so he can just make those quick decisions, get the ball out, get a rhythm going, get your timing going. And, if you're going to put him in the gun and give him an extra second, I don't really know exactly what, in terms of your question, what Kevin O'Connell, but what the quickest remedy for me is you got to get the ball out of his hands quickly.
All right.
Especially if the left side of that line, if Walter Rouse is starting at left tackle next week, I'm buckle up, folks. It's gonna be an exciting ride when the Bengals come to town. To me, the initial answer is get the ball out a little bit faster, see if you can get it a little tempo going. That would be my solution. But you got to run the ball better as well, and they haven't done that in 2 games.
No, I mean, they didn't run it when everybody was healthy at the start of this game effectively. The only time the running game has gotten going was in that 4th quarter, really, of the Bears game, especially with Mason doing the damage. But tonight, the longest run was 16 yards, and that was by J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah, that's not good. I mean, you're not going to win a lot of games when won a lot of teams don't break a lot of long runs. But yes, if your quarterback is, bursting off the longest run of the game, then that signals you have a few other problems offensively. I think right now they're still trying to figure out their identity. I mean, I don't think they know what they want to do offensively, who they trust in, what they trust in J.J. McCarthy just yet. I feel like the offense we're seeing right now won't be the offense we see in week 13 or 14. That's my big, bold take right now. I think they will improve. Things will start to slow down for J.J. McCarthy. We see it with all, quarterbacks in their first year playing, at least the good ones, they are able to kind of, take a deep breath, process things a little bit quicker and, start to make some throws and, play a little faster. But like we always say, it's hard to do that when the guys up front aren't consistent. And I think that was the one big knock Kevin O'Connell mentioned in playing the Rams last year and the Lions is that they couldn't, do anything offensively because of the offensive line. And you just mentioned how pressured he was, in this Sunday Night Football game. I think it's hard to make something happen. And I know I was blasting Kevin O'Connell in game one, like, you got to take some chances. Like, you got to start, the offensive drives with the bigger play. Like, I know Pierre said, be quick, and you can't go deep because you got a bad offensive line somewhat, dinged up. But I think you got to help JJ out and open up this offense. Like, push the ball down the field like they do on the final couple of plays of the first half when they go get these field goals.
50 yards
and
to
then
Justin
you can
Jefferson.
start to dink and dunk, get in the rhythm. But I think this defense is just daring J.J. McCarthy to throw, and they're loading that box up, making everything, miserable for everybody else.
Well, let's get into a couple of the play calls that people have questions about. He had those one series where McCarthy looked the best. He hit Jefferson, then he hit Naylor, stepped out at the 2. So you have first and goal. And instead of just giving it to either Aaron Jones or the other back, Jordan Mason, thank you. The officials stand over the ball because O'Connell said in his post-game presser that he thought the Vikings were still making changes. And so it's his job to stand over the ball to allow the defense then to counter that. So you can't do a hurry substitution offensively and then not give the defense time to get things going. Well, that irked O'Connell because he wanted to try to surprise him with a quick pass, but then the Falcons had time to adjust to it. So that was a little strange. But the one that was stranger was, you mentioned the overthrowing of Naylor. That was a 3rd and 1, right? So you go for it all there, assuming that you're going to use that 4th down to go get it because there was about 9 minutes left in the game and you're down 2 scores. So why wouldn't he have gone for it on 4th and 1 after he missed that deep shot? And then why does he not, after this team wanted to grow up and be tougher in short yardage situations, why not give that offensive line a crack at it with Mason or with Aaron Jones?
You first.
For me, I think you and I were talking about it, Jimmy, when we were watching the game. I think the issue with them punting in that situation in the fourth quarter was because they were at their own 28.
Right, but you're down 2 scores. You've done nothing all night.
Yeah.
And then you took that deep shot. So if you weren't going to go for it on 4th, then you don't take that deep shot.
Yeah, I would agree with that entirely. I really would. That's just my only explanation as to what I think was probably running through his head. We're at the 28, but you are down 2 scores, and it's under 10 minutes to go. So, you're probably only going to get one more possession. With the way Atlanta was running the ball, you could probably only count on having one more possession. So you have to try to steal a possession there. I don't care if you are at your own 28. It's 15-6 at that time. You got to try to at least get 3 on this drive to give yourself a chance. And, yeah, I was confused as to why they punted in that situation as well, particularly when you look earlier in the game when they went for it a couple of times already on 4th down.
They tried deep in their own territory early in the game.
They did it
to snap
twice.
them to life.
If I'm not mistaken, they did it twice.
Well, I remember the one for sure. He
McCarthy
bobbled
the snap on one, but they did get another one. If I'm not mistaken.
Was it more than one?
I think it was
Was
twice.
there more than one he went?
I think they went on 4th down for twice. They're 1 for 2 on 4th down. So, and that was a 1-score game at the time when they went for it on 4th down in those instances. So, to not go for it when you're down 2 scores, regardless of where you are in the field, given the time that was left in the game, I thought that was a questionable decision for sure.
Yeah, I'll start with the J.J. McCarthy fumble on the goal line. I think what people may not have realized is they were trying to pull a trick out of Ben Johnson's bag last week. If you guys recall the Rome Odunze touchdown that Ben Johnson and the Detroit Lions used to run in the past with Jahmyr Gibbs and Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown, where you got the motion, you kind of fake to the running back, then you turn around. Coach O'Connell mentioned after the game, if he doesn't bobble that ball, they probably have Justin Jefferson in the back of the end zone. So I can't wait to go back and go watch that film because I feel like
I agree there was more there.
So,
I don't have a problem with that.
I just think J.J. McCarthy just needs to be a little bit stronger with the football because we saw it again on a screen pass to Aaron Jones where Aaron Jones kind of knocked the ball out of his hands a little bit, then he threw it to him. So I think he needs to be a little bit stronger. Now on that 3rd and 1, that's a play you got to have. Like as a wide receiver, you see it, no safety over the top. I got my man pressing me. I'm in the slot. You know your outside guy's going to hold that corner, and you got the whole side of the field. And you heard the broadcast say, You can never, never, never overthrow that football in that situation. One-on-one with the safety guarding your guy. Like, you have to underthrow it or you have to put it on him and let him get a chance. And if you just give Speedy a chance to just catch the ball and run, he's probably going to crib it. Like, and then you're talking about a one-score game. But I understand where Coach O'Connell was coming from. Like, at that point, it's a 9-point game. You are trusting your defense because your defense had not given up a touchdown all game long, just field goals.
Right.
They had bended, but they didn't break. And so I think in that moment you say, hey, go get us one more stop. We're going to go back out there and we're going to score. But they didn't get that stop.
Why wouldn't you just go for it on fourth down? And
because if you don't
your defense has already been stopping them.
But if you don't get it, the game is over. If
the
you don't
game's
get
over if you're not going to get it back.
But see, at that moment, though, when you're making that decision as a head coach, you're putting faith in your defense.
Then I don't take that deep shot. I need to get that first down first, and if Naylor can get open on that guy
that I can
later,
agree with.
then I dial that up.
But sometimes you don't get those situations.
No,
I
know. You don't get the look that you're looking at.
Yeah.
And you don't get that idea.
If I'm playing video games in that situation and I'm down 9 and it's in the fourth quarter, I'm getting the first down like you're saying. But if I'm Kevin O'Connell and the way the game is drew up, he honestly called a perfect play. And if J.J. McCarthy makes that throw, we're talking about something completely different.
Of course.
Right so
of course. But
I think it was the right play call.
You have to give the offense confidence.
For sure.
Right? And all they needed to do was get 1 yard.
Yeah.
So you're asking those guys, what can we do here? Because you trusted them earlier. They were 1 for 2 on fourth downs in the game. The other one was the bobbled snap where they didn't convert.
52 yards in the second half for the Vikings today. 52 yards.
Yeah.
They under 200 yards for the game.
I don't even know how many first downs they got in the second half. I think it was
in the second half, I don't know. I think it was 10 total for the game. But
fumble, interception. I think they only had 5 possessions in that second half. I had to do TV too, so I wasn't watching everything. I got to cover myself, because I can see the comments piling up, which Pierre always reads about. He loves the comments. Please, give us your thoughts.
I do. Look, I think it was a bad game, but I think the sky is not falling. There's still plenty of good football left. And then you're talking about their matchup next week. Like, Joe Burrow has to go get an opinion on his toe. He has turf toe that may require a surgery and 3 months of recovery. So you're talking about being able to go get some revenge against Jake Browning, who beat you a couple of years ago in Cincinnati when Nick Mullins was the quarterback and Kirk Cousins had torn his Achilles and things like that. So I think it's an interesting opportunity for both teams right now. Both teams have kind of hit a wall early in the season, facing a little bit of adversity. You like to think that you'll get Andrew Van Ginkel back next game. Jeff Okudah will probably be back. You probably won't have Ryan Kelly. He has a history of concussions. Justin Skule, just from my point of view, from what we've seen with the concussion protocol, once you go in it on a Sunday, odds are you're probably out the next week. Ever since Tua Tagovailoa,
because Van Ginkel didn't come out.
They've been way more strict
Monday. Those were Monday night's game, but
ever since Pierre's boys, Miami Dolphins were letting Tua come back after all those concussions, and they've been a little bit more strict in the league.
I don't know why we're bringing them up for the second week in a row. Nobody cares.
I didn't even hear about that last week, so got to take a dig when we can. Did they win today? Oh, wait, dang it. Okay, it's Vikings podcast. Yes.
No,
oh, man.
No,
all right.
Did not go well.
All right. But still, I think better days are ahead for this offense, Pierre.
No.
A bright spot, Eric Wilson.
Yep.
Talk about a guy stepping up. Cashman went down. Wilson was great last week against the Bears and was big again today, forcing a turnover, had 5 solo tackles. He looks like he's been there all season.
Yeah, he was one of those players during training camp. I looked at him, I was like, he's going to make this team. And I remember he was in kind of somewhat competition with Brian Asamoah Jr., and I was like, Brian's on the bubble right now. I was like, because Eric Wilson was having a great camp. Every opportunity he got when he played with the ones and whatnot, he made a play. So I felt like that was a big, addition for this team. I think he played great, but I think you need to see other guys play great, like the Jonathan Allens, the Javon Hargraves. They've shown flashes, but can they be more consistent? You've seen that from Jalen Redmond and Levi Drake Rodriguez, but Jalen Redmond, a costly mistake, on that 4th and inches late in the fourth quarter when you're trying to stop them to a field goal, and then they go down and get that touchdown because he jumped off sides and things like that. You saw Brian Flores say you can't move in that situation. So, think they need to be better, But I think, look, Harrison Smith has a chance to come back next week or the week after that, kind of shore up that secondary a little bit, get everybody in the right place, and you just hope that Eric Wilson keeps his play up and brings Ivan Pace Jr. along.
All right, Pierre, the run defense. We're praising the defense for keeping them out of the end zone. but Bijan Robinson was having a night.
Did you see that move that he put on Byron Murphy today? Like that, just my goodness. It's not often you see a running back that can just stop and turn on a dime the way this young man can, and that's why he was the number 1 overall pick in many fantasy leagues as well, because he can do so many things, not just on the ground but through the air as well, catching the football. The run defense tonight, yeah. It's a little confusing, right? Because last week, in the first quarter, they didn't look great, but they got better as the game went on in the trenches of the defensive line.
Stopping Swift.
Tonight, I mean, like Ahmad just said, you bring in Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave, and you have quality backups in Jalen Redmond and Levi Drake Rodriguez. I mean, this front 4 should be pretty stout. You should be able to stop the run with a level of consistency. They did that in week 1. Because Caleb Williams was the leading rusher for the Chicago Bears last week. Mm-hmm. Tonight, a completely different story. Now, Bijan Robinson is the type of tailback that is on a different level than most players in this league when it comes to that position. But Jim, to be honest with you, I'm not terribly concerned about the run defense. I think tonight was just it was against a guy who's an all-pro type player. You got run down. You didn't have enough possessions offensively to keep the defense off the field. That's not the area that concerns me as much right now. Yeah, it was bad, but like Ahmad, how Ahmad feels about this offense in time, according to Ahmad, he thinks this offense will get better. In time, I think that's
doesn't sound like he's endorsing you there.
Well, that's not going to.
I'm not cutting them off.
I don't believe the run defense is going to be much of an issue moving forward. At least not from my perspective, unless barring injury.
I think it could be the Blake Cashman effect. Because if you go back to last season, I mean, they were pretty much undefeated when he played outside of the playoff game. And every game that he didn't play, they gave up a 100-yard rusher, excluding one contest. And then I think every game when he did play, they were very stout against the run. So I think that's kind of –
and you don't have Gink in there either.
Exactly. So it's kind of like what you expected, kind of, because you didn't have Blake Cashman, you didn't have Andrew Van Ginkel. You're talking about 2 very important pieces of this defense. So that's why I'm saying, like, it's not time to just scream and, say, oh, my God, this defense is so bad. Like, yes, they have shown, like, flashes of bad football, but if you think about it, they really had this team in the ball game in the first 2 games of the season, and their offense hasn't done anything, outside of 1 quarter, So I think and then it's hard to really play defense and stop a run game when you're on the field for almost 36 minutes of a game. Like, that is extremely hard to do, even if you have Jonathan Grenard and Ivan Pace Jr. and all these guys. So, the offense has to help them out, get some long drives, and, kind of win that time of possession battle, because they have not been doing good in that.
Yeah, time of possession, 36 minutes, 32 seconds for Atlanta, 23-28. For the Vikings. And the plays, 60-some plays for Atlanta, 40-some for the Vikings. 2 weeks in a row, the Vikings with under 50 plays offensively.
But you got to talk about the defense. The defense only allowed Michael Penix in this offense to 108 passing yards.
Yeah.
And that's without Jeff Okudah. Like, so when you talk about this defense, make sure you just put exactly. So make sure you put a little respect on their name. Like, they are still bad. No, but the run defense has to be better. And Josh McTeller's called that out. He's like, you can't give up that many big runs. But I think they will be okay. For all those fans right now panicking and worrying about the defense, I think they will be okay. Kind of like Pierre said. I think the run defense will get better, especially when Blake Cashman gets back.
Can I talk about one thing? You want to really get into it? I've been holding my tongue this whole time, and I really want to get into it. When it comes to J.J. McCarthy, not in rookie minicamp, but in minicamp, when I was out there watching practice, there were a couple of instances where he threw a couple of errant balls. He was picked off twice in one minicamp by Byron Murphy. And I thought to myself, okay, if you're going to make mistakes, this is where you want to make them, obviously, and this is where you want to grow. Those mistakes are now carrying over into the game. The interception that he threw, that was great coverage by Billy Bowman. Great coverage.
He left it inside.
Agreed.
He left it inside.
Agreed. Those mistakes that I saw in minicamp and the couple that I saw in training camp as well, they are carrying over into games. The reason why I bring it up is, I'm sorry, you had a guy in Sam Darnold who had an all-pro type season for you last year. There was rumblings of, do we bring in Aaron Rodgers maybe and see how it is? This team, obviously, and they know a lot more about the kid than I do, no doubt about it. They traded up to draft him 10th overall. They obviously have a lot of faith and belief in him, and they believe that he's going to turn into the type of franchise quarterback that they believe he will be for the next decade. But I have a problem with when you have a young quarterback who hasn't played a down of pro football. He was anointed the starter without any competition whatsoever. You trade for Sam Howell. That got botched. You bring in Carson Wentz. J.J. McCarthy was anointed the starter based on nothing. No competition was brought in. This notion, unless you have one of those guys, like the guys at the position in the league, this notion that some teams have, and I'm not necessarily suggesting that the Vikings are one of these teams, but I've seen it around the league. This notion that there is competition across the field on your football team, except for quarterback, that bothers me. That bothers me a lot because J.J. McCarthy hasn't proven anything in this league, but he just suddenly gets anointed the starter. Why? Because you just drafted him 10th overall? That's the reason? That's not good enough for me. That's not good enough for me. And I'm not saying that he's not going to turn into a special type player because there's still a lot of runway left ahead of him. And he's a young quarterback, and I'm going to absolutely be allowing him to make mistakes and go through these hardships and growing pains that a young quarterback does. But it's not so much McCarthy's play, it's how they handled him in terms of just crowning him right away as the starter with no competition behind him. When you just had a guy last year who had the best year of his career. When you had a guy out there in Aaron Rodgers, who listen, I know for as much as everybody wants to, talk about Aaron Rodgers' age, this type of system for Aaron Rodgers, I think would have been a great fit. And more to the point, how do you explain this to the rest of the roster that you built that is on paper built to win now, and now you have to ask the rest of the roster to have a leap of faith in this young quarterback that he can get you to where you are? Because you're not signing here thinking like, we'll give it a year. No, I'm signing here because I want to win now. And I'm looking at this coaching staff, I'm looking at the rest of the roster. I want to win now. So that whole process has just bugged me just a little bit.
He's in midseason form already. I like it. I mean, look, it's a valid point.
I agree.
I have no argument against it. I think J.J. McCarthy has a lot of pressure on him, and I think he has to live up to it, especially being, like you said, a first-round draft pick, number 10 overall. You let a guy walk in Sam Darnold, who had an all-pro type season, was voted a top 100 player amongst his peers in the National Football League.
Beloved in that locker room, too.
Yeah, beloved in the locker room. Look.
Well, you would have had to change the whole philosophy of the team and the organization if you decided to keep Darnold, because how much money did they spend on free agency?
Yeah, sure.
If they gave Darnold the $50 million, you would not have been able to revamp both offensive and defensive lines.
Agreed.
So that was a philosophical question,
Yep.
and not just handing it. My problem was letting Daniel Jones walk out the door.
Mm-hmm.
He's 16 million at Indy.
They offered him a contract, but what he wanted was an opportunity to start, and they weren't giving him that.
That's to his point. That's to his point then, because then you say, what's McCarthy going to say if you tell him, you know what, you're going to compete against Daniel Jones for the job? What's he going to say? No. Well, this is my job. You drafted me, right?
Yeah. Well, then you make Kwesi look really bad.
Here's something that I'll never.
Well, no, not necessarily. I mean, you can have. I mean, how many times have Packer fans reminded us, we had Jordan Love sit for 3 seasons. We had Aaron Rodgers sit for 3 seasons. Right? I mean, you can do that. But the whole philosophy is, what the Vikings did here, I believe, is that this is the current way to win a Super Bowl, is to have a quarterback on a rookie contract so you can fatten up everywhere else.
Yeah,
and they decided, this is our guy, and we're giving him the ball, and we're using this money to load up everywhere else.
And I don't necessarily disagree with that philosophy, given the way the structure in terms of finances and how much you can spend around the league. I totally get it. But one thing I will never forget is over a decade ago, the Seattle Seahawks paid Matt Flynn a truckload of money to come in and be their starting quarterback. And what happened in training camp?
I'll say it didn't last long.
A third-round pick by the name of Russell Wilson wins the job in training camp. Mm-hmm. And what did the Seahawks – look what the Falcons are doing. We paid Kirk Cousins a truckload of money. And guess what? You're not the best quarterback in the room. take a seat. I bring it up because just because you paid a guy $100 million to come be your quarterback, if a guy who's behind him is better, go ahead and start him. If you drafted a guy 10th overall, but you have a guy, a veteran maybe who has outperformed his previous resume, a la Sam Darnold, I don't care that I drafted you 10th overall. I'm winning with this guy right now. Now, I know everybody's going to say, well, you didn't win anything. Fair.
Didn't even win a playoff game.
But it just goes back to, it still just bothers me a little bit that there wasn't really any real competition. Daniel Jones would have been.
That's why I think it'd be the easiest because he's 16. And then, okay, he says he's getting 16 from Indy, getting a chance to start. Fine, we'll give you 20 to stay here.
Indianapolis drafted Anthony Richardson 4th overall.
Right.
What's he doing? He just got beat out by Daniel Jones. Injuries have been part of his story so far in Indianapolis, but he was healthy coming in training camp, got dinged up in training camp, but put it behind the 8 ball a little bit. But they drafted him 4th overall. Indianapolis doesn't care right now.
Nope. Ahmad, you're skirting the issue here.
Look, I think Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson's situation just a little bit different. You're talking about a guy that had ample opportunities to play for a season, pulled himself out of a game because he was tired and things like that. Like, that was kind of a very bad look. If I'm a wide receiver on that team, like, we can tap ourselves out, but you never expect your quarterback to tap yourself out. So I think Anthony Richardson put himself in a terrible spot, and I didn't think he was going to give a fair chance to win that job regardless. I think they wanted Daniel Jones to do that. I will say there was, like, one source I spoke with within the Vikings that said they thought legitimately that the Vikings were bringing in Aaron Rodgers. They said they thought for sure that was bound to happen. So I will say there was a little bit of doubt heading into the season and what J.J. McCarthy could possibly do, but also just think that, like, they're all in on him now, and we can play all the.
Oh, yeah. Well, you have no choice to be.
Yeah, exactly.
You have no choice to be.
So we can play the woulda, coulda, shoulda, but they're stuck with them now. And so I think, what do you do with them now that you have them? And to your point is valid. And J.J. McCarthy did come out and say, like, before training camp started, that they didn't say, hey, this is your job, you're our starter, but it was pretty much assumed that this was our guy. And then Sam Howell played terrible in training camp, and so did Brett Rippon, and that's why they shipped those guys out.
Cost you a draft pick.
Exactly, and that's why Max Brosman's on the team now, and because, he outplayed everybody. And maybe if he would have gotten a fair shake to compete with J.J. McCarthy, like, maybe that would have made him a little bit better. He had a good preseason, too. So, I don't know, but I think it's early right now. Like, look, did we expect J.J. McCarthy to come out here and throw for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns a game in the first 2 weeks? No, probably not. Did we expect him to play this bad? Absolutely not. Is there room to grow? Absolutely.
All right, so what happens next week? You say that they need to figure out a way to get the ball out of his hands quicker. They've got to up this plays per game number. They can't be in the 40s again next week, or they'll be in trouble again against the Bengals, even though they won't have more than likely Joe Burrow.
If you're down to your second-string center, if you're down to your third-string left tackle, it's going to be an issue. I do think you're going to have to get the ball out of his hands a little bit quicker. I think you're going to have to run the ball a lot more efficiently. There's no doubt about that. I am not one to sit here and think that, just because Joe Burrow isn't playing, that the Cincinnati Bengals aren't capable of coming in here and winning. Because if you go back 2 years ago, and I was shocked by this, the way Jake Browning played in the absence of Joe Burrow 2 years ago, I thought for sure somebody was going to give him a nice contract in the offseason. That didn't happen. So he went back to Cincinnati. He came in today's game, and he led them to a come-from-behind victory today at home over Jacksonville. So obviously you want Joe Burrow in the game. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. There's no question about it. But I'm not sitting here thinking that the Vikings are catching a break because they're going to be facing Jake Browning instead of Joe Burrow. The Vikings have their own issues to worry about. So that's why next week's game just got a lot more interesting.
And the secondary will have their hands full because Jake Browning is going to take his shots. T. Higgins, I don't know if you guys saw the touchdown he had today. Go pull it up. Monster play, the run after the catch. My goodness, Jamar Chase, one of the best wide receivers, if not the best wide receiver in the game, 1A to 1B, him and Justin Jefferson. So it's going to be an exciting week. And like Pierre said, I don't think it's like one that you can look at and be like, all right, well, we got this dub because, Joe Burrow may be out. Like, they they still will have their hands full. Like Jake Browning did beat them a couple of years ago, like Pierre alluded to, and he did have, lead his team to a come-from-behind victory. But I think it's a test that they need before they go see Aaron Rodgers overseas and go see the Cleveland Browns and their daunting defense that kind of held Lamar Jackson in check earlier today. So, look, this is a tough slate that the Vikings have this season. Like, there are no easy paths. So if you say you're good, you want to go to the playoffs, beat good teams, and that's what they have to do moving forward.
That's why this one was such a tough one to take.
But Atlanta's going to be a good team. Michael Penix is going to take this. Look at what they did with this offense. Drake London is one of those superstar-type receivers will be in the NFL. Look what he did. Only a handful of catches today. Darnell Mooney. I mean, you didn't hear from all of these guys that you normally do. Kyle Pitts was somewhat kept in check today. The only player that got off was Bijan Robinson. Tough day at the office, for the Vikings without Blake Cashman and Andrew Van Ginkel. But, I still think that there were some positive signs in this game. They did keep Michael Penix in check, and I think the Atlanta Falcons will be a playoff team later this year.
Yeah, that's what they were banking on when they signed Kurt last year.
That's true. That's
All right. Anything else anybody wants to throw on the table before we start reading comments? Because we know you'll have plenty for us.
No, I think I'm good. I think I'm good.
See you guys next week.
Going into the Cincinnati game. Man, it kind of sucks that Joe Burrow's not playing. That kind of takes some of the luster off the game next week. When the schedule came out, I was like, oh, that's going to be a fun game at US Bank Stadium, Minnesota and Cincinnati. But I still think it'll be a fun game. But without Joe Burrow, maybe it takes a little bit of luster off the matchup.
Joe Burrow doesn't play defense, and right now, we only care about the Vikings offense. My gosh. Yeah. So.
All right, that'll do it for us. For Pierre Noujaim, Ahmad Hicks, I'm Jim Rich. Thanks for checking us out. This is the Vikings Now podcast. We come to you after each and every Vikings game. And, where can we find us? Ahmad, you weren't here last week to tell us where people can find this show, if it's a podcast or where they can find
Apple, Spotify, YouTube.com/the Fox 9 homepage, and on Fox9.com, I believe.
How about Fox Local?
Fox Local as well.
We live there?
Yeah, everywhere.
All right. And Pierre, if they'd like to talk to you via X.
Yeah, please get at me at X. That's what I live for. At the Nouj, Fox 9, Nouj, Fox 9.
Ahmad Hicks TV. Ahmad Hicks TV, all together.
There you go. Thanks for watching. Unfortunately, the Vikings lose tonight 22-6. We will see you after the Bengals game.